That's forever.
Sorry.
There we go.
Fellas.
Ride.
Ryan.
You want me to go?
Ride.
No, keep going, nothing? All right. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Couch on Fire podcast with your hosts, Robert Haupt and Alex Haskins, featuring today's special guest, Ryan Rohde. Now we'll go for public radio. Welcome to the Couch on Fire podcast with Robert Haupt and Alexander Haskins. Episode 10, featuring special guest, Ryan Rohde. Straight up. Hey, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Couch on Fire podcast with your host, Rob Haupt, Haskins, special guest. How's that work?
Well, I got all three of those.
Yeah, definitely.
And me making masturbation noises at the NPR one.
I was hoping that one would be right up your alley, Haskins.
Oh my gosh. So guys, hey, how's everyone doing? Good?
Yeah. Doing all right.
I
So
can't see half your face.
well, I can't see him.
Yeah, the camera is not picking up my face. It's routing to OBS from whence I record.
Okay.
So obviously there's more than just me and Alex on this podcast right now.
Well, they can see that.
Yes. So we have a special guest with us today because we have a special topic we want to talk about, and
He seems to be our policy matter expert.
absolutely. So
He's an active
Ryan?
Jill Stein voter, for the record.
Yeah. Now wait, there's elements to that vote. You know that Hillary's gonna win Maryland big, and you're just trying to contribute your vote to the national voice. I would do it again.
I was teasing you.
Yeah, I know. You're the
Well,
guy that supported your crazy libertarian nutbag right to the end. So
Yeah, right up until I got into the voting booth.
whoa.
Hey, Rob, I've got a dad joke for you
politics and what's that?
before we go.
Yeah.
How do you disappoint a libertarian?
How?
Lepo. What's a Lepo?
Are you talking about the national tragedy with federal government and killing a bunch of Americans? Is that...
No, not that one. Aleppo is the city in Syria, actually. So
Oh, shit.
I don't feel bad that Gary Johnson did not.
Oh,
What's
God.
Aleppo?
Hey, man, you're not going to get me much on... I took history of Western civilization as both of my college history classes, so even when I had a chance for more European history, I took the...
All right. So,
All right.
how about
That's
cannabis
good.
policy?
Oh, God, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I mean, in what regards? I went to Salisbury University and Harvard Community College, so I kind of got to see local policy, and then Salisbury dropped the state moniker and became a university some years ago, and that comes with increased funding for things like their own police force and surveillance and on-campus security stuff. That's what you're talking about. It's a weird bag, man.
Cannabis reform policy
Yeah.
rather than campus.
I thought you said campus. All right.
speaking of cannabis, yeah. So absolutely. So breaking news. I just saw this morning. I don't know how old it is because I barely look at my phone.
Canada.
Canada is, I think,
Second country.
yeah,
Number two.
Yep. After Portugal.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
The whole country just legalized marijuana.
Yeah. It's
Essentially overnight.
Well, it's yeah.
What is that coming October?
Yeah, I think by the end of August is when it starts rolling out, and then by the end of fall.
Did you see what the prime minister said?
No, I didn't. What did Trudeau say?
He was very ingenious. He says our kids are gonna buy it no matter what. Let's just tax them.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's the correct answer.
That's
Yeah.
literally.
That's the market at work. Like,
Yeah, he's just like the dealers are ripping, everybody off. They're making all this money out of our country. Let's just tax it, and there you go.
And well, so right now there's an abundance in states on the West Coast where it's been legalized for a few years now.
Yeah.
So you're seeing the market drop out in the bottom of that, and ultimately, that's less money that's going into bad actors' hands and going back towards taxpayers at a discount for the user.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's the safety regulations that immediately come into play as well. Like you're not gonna get a spiked fucking dime bag.
Well, yeah. So the people that I see that use medicinal here in Maryland, I got a couple of people who are close family friends that are signed up for the program. I actually didn't because there's this whole gun issue that goes along with it. But as far as users, when you see the containers they get, it has basically tracking numbers that go all the way back to the specific grower in that state. So there's a clear line of, I guess, accountability when it comes to medical here, and it's something you could apply nationally, obviously.
Well, I didn't know this because
That's
in
actually awesome.
North Carolina, yeah. Well, in North Carolina, we don't have, North Carolina sucks. Um, but in North Carolina, like I didn't know that. That's cool that you actually get to kind of see where it comes from, like where the, like here's where the grower came from, and that's cool. You can trace it back. It's kind of like a local product,
Yeah,
more or
it's a
less.
Well,
way to.
yeah,
It's kind of. It's a weird mix of like hipster, buy local, and yuppie culture. Let's make as much money off of it as we can. So
yeah, the free
um,
market capitalist.
yeah,
Yeah, and
um,
I'm loving that because good capitalism should drive local.
yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah. Well, so in specific states, like I don't know which it is. It's either Oregon, Washington. The law is actually so you can grow a certain amount of plant. Then they hit a certain height. You have to decide which ones you want germinate further and which one aren't going to be viable. The ones you germinate further, you then buy a little security tag for, put it around the base of your plant, and then that's that particular plant's ID number for the rest of its existence.
Huh.
So it's literally accountability down to the single plant.
Wow.
That's
I didn't know
awesome.
that. That is pretty awesome.
Yeah, no, that's an absurd and brilliant level of transparency and traceability, so
Yeah,
that
all
you
of
know
actually,
what hands it's changed the whole works before it got to you, the consumer's hands.
yeah, and it's all enacted in basically a couple of years. And I think the main reason that the regulations are the way they are for plants are basically for kids with epilepsy, such like that. You want to be able to make sure that kids who are using the high CBD strain, you can trace back to specifically CBD strains that.
Yeah,
So I think
because
that's
if that child pops positive, without that path of traceability, there can be CPS issues.
yeah, exactly, and that's
I
I think where it all stems from.
No, that's I mean, that's awesome because you think about it. I feel like a lot of people when they hear, "Oh my God, they're legalizing marijuana in my state," it's basically my state's going to become a drug dealer. No, they're actually going through the steps to make sure it's correctly done, make sure they're grown a certain way, make sure they're,
It's
you know,
pharmaceutical
yeah,
Yeah,
they're
in
doing
nature.
everything. Yeah, they're just
well,
doing everything a pharmacy would.
let's look at the broad scope of prohibition in America through the 20th century. You kind of start with alcohol. What happens when alcohol is made in the 20s? You get a rise in the criminal element, unlike any other time in American history, and you have people going blind off of alcohol that they should have been able to buy to begin with. You carry that on to the war on drugs, and now you have disproportionately amount of, you know, lower class citizens who, for something that should be legalized, taxable, are sent to jail. You know, revenue that could be going to the state versus revenue going away from the state in, the judicial system and incarceration. So it seems like a pretty.
Yeah, it's picture perfect. Like it
Yeah,
makes sense to
yeah,
release us from the anchor economically, well as provide this huge resource, this new mineral vein, as it were, of taxes.
yeah. and and ideally, in states like Colorado, it's $200 million in taxes in their first year. So apply that to 50 states. Colorado's a medium-sized state, so the bigger states, you're going to see an even greater return on that. Add that to the bottom GDP of the United States, and you can really start doing big things with infrastructure, education, and healthcare.
Oh yeah.
Well, okay. Well, going along with that, like, how would if someone like, but for both of you guys, if someone would, you're preaching to them or not preaching, you're telling them this, everything that we're talking about, and they come up to you and they're just like, okay, yeah, I understand it's going to make the state money. I understand it's going to help out things like that, but I still have a version of people doing drugs as a gateway drug, as all this. I mean, people doing pot as a gateway drug and all this other stuff. Like, how did they get past that? How did they move past
Well,
that?
the first thing you do is you
Economics.
hit them. Yeah, well, not even that. The first thing you do is you hit them with a statistic about heroin recidivism in states that have made marijuana legal. I believe in 2 or 3 states where marijuana has been made recreational legally, or recreational legal. Um, the heroin usage rate drops, like, I don't want to get the exact numbers wrong, but it's somewhere in the high teens or low 20%. So it's actually not a gateway drug to more drug usage. It actually seems to be like a gateway drug off of harder drug use. And those are studies you can find across the internet. Don't know the sources right now, but
Yeah.
Check it out on Google Scholar.
yeah,
You know.
Okay, Google.
yeah,
Oh, my phone
exactly.
just went off. Shit.
Yeah,
No, 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 Google, no. Oh, I just said
they're
no,
listening
no,
to you,
Google,
Rob.
no. I don't understand.
There's a murder.
Oh my god. What makes you think it was murder? Um, um,
Great big bushy beard.
well, I feel like the opportunity is endless. I mean, I feel like it's definitely a market that hasn't been really tapped too much, and I feel
Well,
like
no, it has.
well,
It has.
yeah,
Demand is being met. It's just not being
Yeah,
met through channels that are safe
exactly.
for all parties.
yeah.
Would you rather have to go meet some sketchy guy somewhere or be able to go into like a local apothecary basically and buy it from a vendor that's in your
Board
neighborhood?
certified.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
know, no, I mean, I definitely agree. I feel like I haven't been in Maryland since this has happened, but I have friends and family that are there, and dispensaries are popping up like fucking 7-Eleven.
Yeah,
Bam, bam,
yeah.
bam, bam, bam,
Yeah.
and
Crazy,
that's
crazy.
awesome because that that's more variety, more
Competition.
Well,
competition is everything. So
even if we look past the economic side, and I know Haskins doesn't, I mean, he respects the rights, so this is
yeah,
behind. But imagine spending your entire lifetime as a person who felt like a criminal over something that really shouldn't have been criminal to begin with. And then the elation you feel the moment that you walk into a place like that and you're not a criminal. You're just a citizen doing something
Engaging
legally.
in their rights.
Yeah. So I don't want to say a euphoria, but imagine the thrill of no longer being a criminal after a lifetime of that. On some, for some of these people, especially the older ones that are getting this license, I think it's 50 years of prohibition have affected them that now they're being able to go into stores and
Yeah.
prosper.
you think you think this is gonna be like real competition for the dealers out there?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, honestly,
yeah,
the safety
yeah,
situation alone
yeah,
ensures that it's a better product and a safer product. Like
100%.
it's not going to be tampered with. It's not spiked. You're getting a dosage and potency information that isn't like anecdotal evidence, like it's the middies, or like having that oddball
This is
conversation.
nine bud. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
like
ones that
having that weird conversation. You have an explicit and quantifiable label to look at that's
Mhm.
traceable
oh,
to that plant. So
and it even
you
goes
know what you're getting into and what your dosage requirements should be.
it goes even further than that. In it'll tell you the whether it's an indica sativa, is it a hybrid, which is dominant, what's the THC count, CBD count. So you really it becomes a very precise measurement of how to medicate,
Yeah,
take care of yourself.
Yeah, because the different the different compounds, as it were, THC and CBD, both have different effects. Like CBD
Yeah.
is non psychoactive; it just gives you a body glow effectively.
Well,
Like it
that's
relaxes some muscles, it calms your breathing down, helps your blood sugars, and a bunch of other stuff. It's all super beneficial, and the THC carries the psychoactive component.
I love CBD.
you love.
Listen,
You love. Um, I know
So
I
you guys catch me all the time with koi. So
well here, I'll say this about CBD. So I have diabetic neuropathy. I'm type 2 diabetic. I have a lot of things. I just have a lot of things wrong with me, and I have inflammation in my knees and all this other good stuff. And, yeah, and I started doing CBD because I wanted to do medical marijuana. I've always wanted to do it. I would get a medical marijuana card in a heartbeat because I have neuropathy, but I have a job that I care about and I have a family that I care about, and they won't allow me to do that right now.
yeah.
So compromising, I can do CBD. I can buy it over the counter or online, and I don't get high from it, which sucks. But I don't get high from it. Hey, listen, I like a fun time, right?
everybody likes drinking a beer after work. It's the same thing.
Yeah, it will be eventually. Um,
So the only reason that I haven't, you know, I know many that don't sign up for the medical card because right now in the state of Maryland, there's kind of an issue about gun ownership, medical cards. So I think the gray area you can be in right now is caregiver, which means you can buy it for another user and have it on you, but you won't be giving up any rights to own a gun. So that's a big issue here in Maryland. I know a lot
alrighty,
of medical users aren't signing up because
guns right there.
it's kind of like I was talking about as far as giving up the rights to medicate yourself with the plant. Like where they're giving you one right, but immediately trying to strip you of another. So I don't want to sign up for that myself.
I feel like eventually they will find a good ground with it, but I can, yeah, it's new. They're
Well, I
trying to
mean,
figure it out.
what is the stereo? I mean,
Yeah,
when have you ever heard of guns and no alcohol? I mean, every time that I've gone to a shooting range or anything, even hunting, there's always some beer when you're out with your. It's kind of part of the culture. So I don't see what the difference between someone who chooses to drink and use guns versus.
Hmm.
especially with the dosage information
Yeah,
right there. You know whether you're drinking a beer or pounding 6 shots,
yeah,
and you know that
um,
walking in.
yeah. That's the only thing that I. That's my only like. I don't see what the difference is. Why a medical marijuana user can't have a gun. Why some habitual.
I think the thing the thing that points me towards the direction of medical marijuana would be I wake up every day and I take 7 pills. I'm 31 years old. I'm taking 7 pills, and it's just annoying when I know at least 4 of those pills can be eliminated by one plant. And so it bothers me so much sometimes, and it's just like, man, I just can't wait. And I know I have friends and family that watch this. I know they're probably gonna be like, oh well, is that how you really feel, Robin? Yeah, I felt that way ever since I was a kid. I've always felt that way, and it's crazy to me that it's been taking this long, but I'm glad that they're moving forward. And honestly, with Canada doing what they're doing, I mean, I know we're not going to be, well, hopefully not too far behind, but
But
we'll
Well,
see.
uh,
a
it could
third
be
of
another 2 years.
Mexico's
It
market
could
just
be
disappeared.
26.
Well, like honestly, the cartels coming out of Mexico own most of the marijuana racket, like
Yeah,
from nearly top to bottom, and they do dominate the Western Hemisphere in that regard. Uh,
it's a
and
great way to pull all their money out from under them.
yeah, a third of their market just disappeared
Yeah,
because like they're doing. I know Canada better than to expect them to do anything different with their tracking and traceability stuff. Like
yeah,
that's a given as a part of
Yeah.
that policy. So like all of the black market is the part that's illegal at that point, and regular users get to go on about their business. So like it's clear if you're on the black market side of that line or not, and you're
Yeah,
immediately getting the actual criminals, like the
yeah.
people that are in active danger to civil society. That's who it is.
Well, I'm a crazy person that wants to legalize and regulate most forms of narcotics, prostitution. Hey,
You
Sorry.
broke
not
out at Prost.
not a user, I assure you, of the. But I feel like, especially with prostitution, as opposed to like back alleys and women with the being targets, victims of violent crimes, you essentially put up like a government sanctioned brothel that you have all the condoms you need there, STD tests, a safe environment, tax it. It just ultimately it's another thing. Support the safe injection sites that we Philly do, and
Uh,
it's all
Okay.
things that make
so
me like
so
a
Ryan,
crazy.
right, in regards
Yeah,
to that one specifically with the safe injection sites, because
yeah,
I'm very pro regulation and taxation, but
yeah.
safe injection sites are are a particular issue. Uh,
Oh, I know.
d-
You hit me back
does
because. Sorry,
does
go ahead.
yeah, does the government run healthcare correctly?
Oh, um, we've had this philosophical debate a bunch of skins. I think that either way, power is going to be concentrated. That's just the nature of existence. Is power is concentrated. So, do you trust that power in privately run hands or in an entity that is supposed to work for you? I don't want to. I'm not a huge fan of either, but if I have to be a proponent of one or the other, I want the one where I'm supposed to have an effect with my voice as a voter and as a citizen.
So
Well, sure, that's fair, but I mean, what's to stop the and this gets totally practical here, not
Oh
principle
yeah.
at all.
Well, because then
What
no,
stops them from
like
becoming the racketeers?
well, because then and there's other bags or it's other mixed bags with this because then where do cops stop policing around the safe injection site? Is it like 100 yards, or you waiting for the criminal as soon as they walk out to try and bust them? So there are other practical implications. But at this point in my life, I've seen too many overdoses, too many friends and family, and it's literally like every 3 months I get a call of someone who's overdosed. So I'll take the other issues that could crop up from this versus continuing to prosecute it like they're criminals or treat it like it doesn't exist because those are solutions that are doing anything. So I'll try it as
well,
far as
I have something to
question.
say. I have something to say about when we were talking about with the whole dealer situation. So one of the
Mhm.
things I wanted to say was I still think people are still going to buy drugs from dealers. I feel like I understand that there's dispensaries, and I understand that I might not be able to get a card if I need a card, or I might not just. I would. Some people are closet drug users. I mean, I know this. At one point in time, I hid it. I like to do it at nighttime alone. I didn't want people to know that I smoked pot. So it's just one of those things where I would rather still go to the guy that I've always gone to and not let everyone know, or that I mean, rather than have someone see me, John Doe see me walk into a dispensary like that. It's still
Yeah,
it's still a social thing. So I still feel like dealers will still make money. Obviously, not as much,
Uh,
but
It'll
unless
peter out over time
yeah,
as this
unless they
as more and more people engage in the recreational use of marijuana. The more and more other people are going to see how
yeah.
totally like just getting a six pack after work. Uh,
yeah,
it's exactly the same. You don't bat an eye at the six pack, but you hear about somebody coming back with an eighth. You're like, whoa, whoa, whoa! Is that all for tonight, man? Are you okay? Like, let's talk about this. And people get involved because the stigma's still there. But as
yeah.
The,
more and more people do that, we're gonna see more and more often that people are totally unfazed by the sight of it.
if the drug dealers were smart, they would cut their prices. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
Oh
well,
yeah, and you're gonna get a lot of really smart capitalist dealers out there
Oh yeah.
who figure
well,
out good ways to compete for at least a little while, but it's more cost beneficial to just flip and go legit anyway.
well, so here's where I think that it seems like in the next 10 to 20 years that loophole is going to be versus eventually when it's federally legalized. Um, each state, so you can only buy stuff that's grown in Maryland from Maryland dispensaries. Um, but states like I was saying out west that are having this surplus of supplies,
The bed shit.
um,
The best shit.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Then
Sorry, Marilyn. What you got?
so
Obey.
there's a market for anyone who's willing to go and risk going to these states that have a surplus, buying it cheaply, and coming to the states that don't. So even if we project that out over 50 states, and each state is kind of individually running its own marijuana racket, essentially, um, there will always be like a difference in the surplus or the amount that one state has versus another. So it seems like there'll always be like weird little cracks that you can make a little markup from state to state, but that's about it as far as like the long prospects of not going through a dispenser.
Okay.
Event,
Definitely.
yeah, eventually the demand for the black market, non-dispensary, non-regulated uh, product will just it'll continue to drop
Yeah,
over time.
yeah, and that's why I said so. Like next 10, 20 years, that's how I see you may exist. But whenever the national mandate and it's like, okay, Virginia can get theirs from Delaware, and Delaware can get theirs from New York. Whenever that line is broken, is when I think that would be like the last bit of the black market dropping in.
Now,
Yeah,
here's a
it'll be a
Well,
real uphill battle from there. Yeah,
yes,
and,
yes.
and they're dying at that juncture.
Yeah. Well,
here's
I'd
a
like to see policies where these people who may have minor nonviolent drug offenses, they're the experts in the field. Maybe we should be hiring them for these
As
jobs.
regulators, yeah.
Yeah.
regulators.
Well,
Sorry.
it's
Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
FBI hiring hackers to do cybersecurity.
Exactly.
It's
Yeah.
the same
It's,
thing. Like that's their
yeah.
best recruiting tool. It's period. They can't draw hackers in voluntarily at all because hackers are mostly
Yeah.
anarchists.
They specifically will target a hacker for their skills to make them,
Yeah, and
get-
honeypot them into a crime, trap them, and say, "Here, let's make an offer you can't refuse."
yeah. For the next 3 to 7 years, you're doing cybercrime.
Yeah,
I feel like
but
I
we'll
feel
pay you
like,
for it.
dude. Side note. I know this is kind of random, but so I normally order my CBD online, but I ran out recently, so I had to go to the store and get it. They sell a CBD bud, like it's actually an hemp plant, and I was just freaking out. And I was like, "Is this real?" Like I was just like, the fact that I would buy one of those and just like a cop would see me carrying it around. Is this like it just would look weird, you know? Like it's just
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's crazy
like
to
you're
me.
just walking around with your little house plant, like, hey,
Yeah, like hey,
this is my
feed me,
house
Seymour,
plant.
feed me. I love it. You know,
Yeah.
it's like oh yeah.
Feed me your blood from the cop that wrongfully shoots you. No.
Uh, what
Just kidding.
one thing? So with this whole cannabis thing going on and all these states being legalizing it and stuff, I feel like it's definitely grown like a pop culture. Like there's
Yeah.
TV shows, there's stuff on. I just watched something on Netflix that was just crazy. It's
Join
called. Well, no, it's a
Okay.
cooking show. It's a cooking show. It's two chefs. They battle each other, but the secret ingredient is cannabis. It's called Cooking on High. It's crazy. Like, I was just like, oh man, and like it's crazy that it's so. Eventually, celebrities are gonna get. I'm waiting for the first celebrity to do like an ad on Instagram. Oh, try this dispensary. Like,
That might be a way that Paula Dean can try to win back the black.
Jesus Christ. Bulletin is the reason all my friends are dead. What the fuck?
Oh my god.
Yes. It worked for Martha and Snoop. I mean,
Yeah, it did.
Ah.
yeah.
She needs to
Yeah.
start She needs to start partnering up.
Oh, oh God.
Oh man, that is crazy. So where do you think this is going to go next? So say all the states were legalize it. So what do you think's next?
No, I mean,
We'll
uh,
sit. Before the
yeah,
last state falls, we'll see uh, the more progressive liberal states begin
Yeah.
to legalize and tax psilocybin mushrooms.
no, you think that's where it goes?
Yeah,
I'm on.
I think that's the next step. It's too
Well,
valid a treatment for depression.
I gave you all my. I mean,
The
legalize it all, tax it,
the
regulate it.
That's the way it
this
should be, honestly, but it's going to be a little bit at a time.
the
Oh yeah.
snozberries taste like snozberries.
That means
Sorry.
balls.
Did you guys see number two?
Cinema.
Number two?
No, I
Huh?
haven't seen it yet. No.
No, it's not bad. Not bad.
I mean, I thought the first one wasn't great the first couple times I saw it, but then it grew like a following, and I was like, I'll give it another shot. And of course, I gave it a shot while I was high when I was young. So, and then it was 10 times better. Um, so yeah, I mean, I love it now.
It's definitely a movie they made for the fans. So
Yeah.
I mean, I enjoyed it because I like everything the Broken Lizard does.
What movie is this?
Super
The
Troopers 2.
Broken Lizard.
Oh.
That's the. Jay Chen Desikar is the Indian dude, and he directs a lot of stuff.
I don't know. There,
Western.
there was that horror movie, that slasher movie they made. That was kind of weird.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Club Dread.
And,
Yeah.
I mean,
That was like I think that was like their third or fourth one, but you get a bunch of winners after that. It's like Super Troopers, what
beer fest.
Beer Fest, yeah.
I'm shaking my
Slam and
head.
I was a fan of Slam and Salmon. I don't know if you ever saw that one.
Salmon.
It was
Oh,
where they were a waiting staff with Michael Clark Duncan as their owner and a former boxer who owned this restaurant, and it was great. Um,
That sounds like a
and-
wild ride.
yeah, it was a good one. It was a good one.
well,
Uh,
okay. You just said restaurant. My next question I wanted to ask both of you was, do you think restaurants will start selling cannabis on their menu?
Yes.
Yeah, as soon as there's a market for it, of course.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, you're gonna see this, specific restaurants pop up for
Yeah,
cannabis and food pairings and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And we're gonna have to figure out that regulatory market because smoking is banned inside.
Yeah.
But a cannabis restaurant, like that's a self-defeating idea, and like that's a good market. We should tax that still. But how do we deal with the no smoking inside versus the cannabis restaurant in general?
Well, Taco Bell will probably do it first.
Jesus Christ.
I'm just
if
saying.
anyone's gonna do it, it's Taco Bell.
Well, I told
Let's be real.
I told Alex about this idea. I think dispensaries should, because some of them can deliver to patients or people that Some, I think they should have a chef on staff that will come to your house and cook it for you.
That's not bad.
And so
It's like
A staff
weird
on call.
food.
yeah, like a staff on call, like because then the chef can make tips and he can make an hourly or whatever he does. But yeah, he can get tipped, and when the person's high as a kite, and be like, oh, here's $100. This is delicious, thank you.
I no
Exactly
longer
what the body
see
needed.
value of money. Here's $100.
What do you call this shit? It was good. Sprinkle a little indigo shit on there.
oh, that's awesome.
Oh man, so I don't know. My future, eventually my wife and I are planning on moving to another state, and the state that we're moving to, South Carolina, they already put in the bill to legalize medical marijuana. And will I do it? I would like to, but I might not smoke it. I've fucked up my lungs a long time ago doing some other shit.
It
And
says the guy that vapes during his podcast.
vaping's a lot different from papers and all this other stuff. I say that,
sure.
yeah.
So those carcinogens aren't going to come back as being bad for you in 2 decades.
Okay, you got me there.
It's a lot, and it's verifiably better than smoking.
Oh yeah, I mean, but it's shot with a shotgun or shot with a nine.
I don't like smoking
I'd rather get shot with the 9, thank you.
100%, yeah. It's taking a shot. Yeah.
But I think if the time comes, I'm definitely gonna talk to my doctor about it because like the pain that I have in in my legs and stuff because of the neuropathy is definitely for it. And my daughter, a lot of people don't know. I don't know if you know, Ryan. My daughter is
Yeah.
autistic,
Yeah.
and she's severe autistic. And I've heard of kids with autism, use CBD or use medical marijuana, and it's helped them calm down and help the anxiety because they're constant anxiety
Mm. They
and
become a little more verbal as well.
yeah, and then
Yeah.
like it sucks because like I want to because I do take CBD. I want to give my daughter it, but also I don't want family members or because it's still kind of a taboo subject. I don't want people to be like, "Oh my God, what are you doing? That's child abuse. Don't do that." Like like so.
Well,
Well,
simple education on the difference between THC and CBD
Yeah.
isn't widespread.
yeah.
Well, so
Uh,
the greatest evidence for that is like I don't know uh, which documentary it was. It might have been Gupta or Netflix or whatever. But there was some little girl who was like having 400 or 500 seizures a month
Oh yeah.
before she
I
taking
was
yeah.
the
talking about.
CBD. Now it's like 2 or 3 in a month. She went from being regressed and nonverbal to reading at her level, and like it's an incredible. Uh, just the fact that we haven't looked at it as an alternative just for children before now, it's kind of gross. Like if we had 20, 30, 40 years of kids that could have grown up without having their brain cooked from seizures, why weren't we doing
I agree. I mean,
Yeah. No, that's it.
it,
Jesus.
yeah.
I
that?
never even thought about that element.
Yeah, no, I mean, no one, it's an all encompassing issue that affects, everything from the way that your society acts with people that they deem lesser than because they're criminals, the taxes and the revenue that you can do to rebuild infrastructure, and then the actual tangible effects it has on the user. So it's it really shapes all elements of the culture that focus.
Okay, so for someone that's listening, they're not pro marijuana. They don't really want to go, down that. They don't believe in it. We're naming all the positive things. What are the negative things?
I mean, there's always negatives, but it's much less limited. Like I would
Yeah.
say, the negatives are the same or less than alcohol. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm
maybe
actually gonna note an exception there.
well, well,
If
maybe
you are schizophrenic, pot is
yeah,
not your friend.
no. But if you're schizophrenic, is alcohol?
The episode, it's not causes an episode. It's aggravates the condition.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Like
no. It's
alcohol aggravates cirrhosis.
yeah,
So like if you're schizoaffective, any of the sub uh, illnesses from there, uh, don't with the pot.
yeah,
It will hurt you.
yeah.
People have to remember.
That is a negative that is actually
Oh,
just getting documented now, and I'm glad that it's getting documented because I don't want to create another public health epidemic in
or another
granting
reefer madness.
people. Yeah, like
Yeah.
I want to allow people their rights, but also not genuinely endanger a segment of the population.
Well, then there's other concerns like you can't really give a weed breathalyzer test that's reliable right now. So,
Right now.
so yeah, you can get an idea of like how recently they smoked, but then it's to what effect does that does that dosage affect that individual versus that dosage in another individual,
Yeah.
a more full user versus someone who's so that's another weird kind of gray area that you're going to be in.
We've figured out a quick, fast, and accurate pisser, however, that can tell within hours and give
Yeah,
the effective dosage, like
yeah,
the
because they don't.
processed, because you can see the difference between the metabolites and the metaboloids versus the chemical itself. So like how much you actually processed, and we'll get more and more data on that as time goes on.
I think it's
So, but still, ultimately, it feels like less. like not something you're gonna do on the roadside when a cop pulls you over and does like a field sobriety test.
Piss in this cup.
Yeah, I don't think.
You got
I
a
don't
small
know how
dick.
They do already have the equivalent blood test, but it's less reliable because you're not seeing as many of the metabaloids versus the active compound.
Well, I talked to my grandfather about this, and he's just like, "Well, I don't want to be on the road if people are all high driving on the road." And I'm like,
They'd be super careful. Let's be
"Well, I
real.
told,
Like
Yeah,
anxiety is real.
well, I told him, I said, I was like, the way you drive, Pop, they're probably gonna think you're high. 'Cause that's how stoners drive." Like, I mean, seriously. So it's like, that's
I
funny.
know.
It's the take your time, and the like. I want to get there safely. It becomes more of a factor
There's
with those people. Like it's more effort to go to the hospital, so I'm gonna be lazy and not need to go to the hospital.
I feel like I feel like
You know?
yeah. I feel like as society we made it such a bad, horrible thing. It's the gateway drug. It does this. It makes well, I think wasn't the main reason why they banned it is because I think at the time it made white women want to be with black guys. I think that was like the story. If you hear this,
That was one of the stories.
that was one of the stories.
The propaganda elements, but the practical element behind it is ultimately
There was cotton
industry,
trying to edge out.
industry in the
hemp.
20s and 30s that were gonna lose business to cannabis fibers versus, like Alex is saying, cotton fibers,
Yeah.
or specifically like William Randolph Hearst, who was a big newspaper magnate and controlled it from the logging, the production of the paper, the printing of the paper, and the distribution. So, cannabis fibers would have ultimately
Infinitely better
cut out-
paper, in fact.
Yeah, and it would have cut out a huge part of his industry and about half of his empire. So that's there became this tax act in like the 30s, where it was like it was never outlawed. It was you have to get a tax credit to grow it, but then they never set up the bureau to issue those tax credits. So it's like, hey, you can get it. You just have to go to this bureau. What bureau? No.
And that was by design.
Yeah, exactly. And then over time, it becomes you get Nixon and hippies and
Yeah.
the counterculture fight and
Damn
when
hippie.
that just wasn't necessary to begin with. Like I'm glad our culture went through that whole like peace and love movement, but also like maybe don't be dirty hippies.
hey,
I
you
don't
wouldn't have
know.
had Jimi Hendrix if there were no hippies. So that's enough for me to have hippies.
I mean,
I too accept hippies. That was a good argument.
Oh.
besides hippies, you know what else came good out of the '60s? Porn and horror movies. I'm just telling you right now.
Yeah,
And both together. Together.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen Teeth?
Oh God.
Terrible. No, that's a horrifying concept.
Yes. That's why it's both.
Yeah.
Well, if you have the opportunity, would you guys go down that route to take medical marijuana? I know Alex has,
I
anxiety.
indicated a desire to go through legal channels to treat
Yeah.
depression and anxiety. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, as long as it doesn't take away any other rights, of course, why not? Exercise every right you can. And for me specifically, I don't know if Alex, I don't know if you do, Rob, but I was in a pretty severe car accident about 3 years ago, to where
I
I
didn't
got
know
cut
that.
out of it. Yeah, yeah, I was going about 45 miles an hour, straight through a light, and a girl going the other way. I was actually right at Shucks Road and 22 near Harvard College.
I know.
And we were both basically going the opposite ways on 22. And at that light, I guess she thought she could beat me through it because she pulled out in front of me. And my front passenger headlight hit her front driver's side. And my front driver's side hit her front passenger. Sorry about that. And we kind of hit like this. I pushed through like that and wound up getting cut out of the car. stitches and scar on the forehead, and yeah, so some nerve stuff in my hands from it, and perpetual neck. So if I could use something to relieve that, I certainly would, because I'm not going to take any kind of opiate. You see what happens. Harford County is like
Oh my
200
God.
bodies.
Yeah. What have we already crossed 50 opioid deaths
Yeah,
a
I mean,
year this year?
this year it's a slower rate than it was in 2015, 2016. So I think we hit like 180 or 200 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah. What
So
was
it's
that? That was 16, wasn't it?
yeah, I think so.
Well, it's the last podcast we did. When Alex was on his business trip, I did a quick little 15-minute podcast. I talked about my because I used to be addicted to opiates and cocaine and heroin. I actually went down that road. Fortunately, I met the people, good
Is that a bit
people.
of Blockbuster?
No, this was when I was it was at Pizza Hut. Blockbuster donut.
Showing our age. Remember Blockbuster certification day?
Oh God.
But
Right.
no, like I went down that and I saw great people, just amazing people, turn into the worst people that you can possibly meet because of withdrawal and because of the way that the drug brought them down. That was part of the main reasons why I stopped doing that. And to see pictures of people on Facebook post, oh, Harford County, the overdoses are this and all this other stuff. It's sad because that's just one county in
We
Maryland.
made it on,
Yeah.
we made it on Netflix. Netflix specifically shot a 1 hour focused on Harford County in a 4-part mini. So
What's the show? I'm gonna watch this.
it's like dope or something like that. I'll have to. I can.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Huh.
I
I'll have to
actually was
check
gonna.
that out.
I was actually gonna watch Dope yesterday. I saw it up on my feed. I was like, oh, Dope. I love Dope.
Oh, dope.
Specifically,
The band. God.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
dope,
think
man.
It's the one that I'm thinking of. Is where you follow these guys. Where it's a guy from Harford County that drives into the city with the heroin connect. I guess he gets it from
Yeah.
Philly or New York or wherever. But we're a big trafficking spot where it's a hub between three big metropolitan areas, and
Oh yeah.
Harford County just so happens to be the one where they like stash giant 100-pound stashes of heroin. So
Scavenger Hut. Anyone?
No.
Make a lot of money.
nightmare situation. Yeah, who wants to be the star of No Country for Old Men?
Yeah, seriously.
Is that a peephole? What is that?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh God, they're watching. Oh God, they're watching.
So
I gotta run
I'm good. But yeah, that's I don't know. So
It's definitely.
it's a weird time to be.
Yeah. I mean, so yeah, I'm definitely gonna use it. Just to see if it would actually help me in when the time comes. And we'll see. We'll see what happens. I mean, I just want the best for me, and then obviously, hopefully, eventually they'll put it in like a, hopefully they'll be okay to give it. I'll be okay to give it to my daughter without people judging me.
Yeah.
So
Well, you'll be able to get it in pill form. That's what they do in states like Colorado and now is you can get it in a pill, so you're not smoking it, you're not vaping it,
There's no lung
about as-
damage.
yeah, it's
Well-
about as close as you can to getting the medical effects without doing much damage.
when
to
I
it.
just found out they have CBD patches that you put on, they last like 3 days. I'm like, what the fuck?
Oh, I'm gonna sign up for that.
Like there's a dispensary in Colorado where you can order from right now because it's CBD. It's not. There's no
Yeah.
THC in it, and I'm just like, what? Take my money, because like I like
So wait-
vaping. It's fun, but I would just rather wear a patch all day and stare at the moon.
I think another reason to get the Butterface back, man, is Butterface marijuana. Your
Hey,
CBD,
I tell people all the time, and you know why hippies had long hair? Because there's something in the marijuana plant that it's like vitamin E. It makes facial hair grow. It makes hair grow.
Yeah.
I mean, as Ryan touches his hair. But yeah, No, I mean I've been using CBD, and I feel like my hair is definitely grown. My mustache is definitely grown.
At
Please
this
shave
point,
that.
I'm gonna be honest. The only reason I haven't cut my hair at this point is like I'm afraid that if I cut it, it's just not gonna come back. Hang on to this for as long
Oh,
as I can.
dude, I feel look at it, look at this peak going on here. I totally understand that 100%.
I'm getting the thin right here.
I'm fairly lucky. I've had the same widow's peak forever.
Yeah.
It's just I've seen a bunch of my friends that like they have longer hair, then they shave it down, and it never quite comes back the same. So I'm not gonna avoid
The
that.
w- the wind blows. Oh, it's gone.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, better than 45's hair, man. So you're good.
Ooh.
Hey,
Bazinga.
I mean, your hair is at least presidential or better, so I mean that's a win.
There you go.
Fair.
By the way, Donald Trump supporter.
Yeah, I know.
He says with disdain.
Hey, think no less of Rob because of he's been led down a wrong path. He'll come back.
Listen. My whole life, I voted for Ralph Nader. I just want to let you know, I voted for Ralph Nader my whole life because he wanted to legalize marijuana.
You remember the mock election we did in like 8th grade for the 2000 election when it was Bush and Gore?
Oh
And, like,
yeah.
I voted for Nader. I was like one of like 4 kids in my 8th grade class that voted for Nader in the 2000 mock
I loved
8th
it.
grade.
I love Ralph Nader. I would have voted for him again. He ran for like 50 years, so I would have voted for him all the time.
And it's a shame because he dropped out right when he got to like 3.8 or 4.1%, and all he needed was another percent to get a part of the national pot for election. Nope. But
I
yeah,
guess he
I
likes
don't-
spending his own money.
Yeah, yeah, right. But no, I mean, I did volunteer work on the Sanders campaign, so I'm about as far away. I'm a
No.
communist to everyone, so
You filthy commie.
yeah, 100%. One,
Yeah,
even though I'm marketing director for a pool company, and my goal is to go out and steal contracts and companies, our competitors. Totally.
Yeah.
While simultaneously
my.
subverting capitalism itself. All
That's
right.
right, all from inside the system.
And we
I'm just gonna
just
make-
saw a group meeting in a local Antifa.
Oh yeah, I'm so full of violent
Mhm.
anti-establishment.
Oh
Yeah,
man.
they're just as guilty as it's the horseshoe theory, man.
Yeah.
I don't need to waste more time on that.
Yeah.
The same reason that like you see hard right doesn't trust vaccinations because like government can't make me vaccinate my children,
And it's
then far
against
left is-
against my god.
yeah, and then far left is like they're gonna turn my kids into something they're not supposed to be. So it's like again
A
it's the
naturalism fallacy coming from like
Jenny
just
McCarthy.
yeah,
from Jenny McCarthy.
yeah.
It came from Jenny McCarthy.
As you as you notice, Rob doesn't talk about politics, so I stay out of it.
You're the one that brought up Trump.
I just tried the horseshoe. I tried the horseshoe theory. That's it.
I opened that, well, let's just say I moved that hair and now it's, you like that? You like that? I'm a dad.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of inherent with the conversation we were talking about. I mean,
Yeah.
Well,
Not
here's the
things-
weird thing: 45 is actually pro legalization.
yeah, it's his
It's
attorney
Jeff
general.
Sessions. Yeah.
Yeah, and that fuck Steve Muchin or whatever.
Yeah.
The
Steve,
devil
if you're
worshiper
watching
or
this,
whatever.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, he's gonna really miss your support. Steve Muchin is really gonna struggle now.
Listen, every vote counts. You ever seen remember Chris Farley when he was it Black Sheep? He's like, every vote
Yes.
counts, and he falls down the hill. Oh man, that is nuts. That is nuts.
But yeah, so I mean, I feel like this guy wouldn't be as terrible as he's been if he surrounded himself with people that he would have chosen. But a large majority of at least the initial support staff was all chosen by the GOP, so
Yeah.
at at odds, ideally,
Yep.
when it comes to things like that.
You know, people ask me, they're like, why do you like him? And my whole thing is, I've always been ignorant when it comes to politics, and I try not to talk about it too much because I just don't know too much about it. But I think the reason why I like Donald Trump is because he's funny looking, and
And then Mussolini, man.
yeah. Well, I read a book a long time ago, and I actually watched a documentary about Donald
Not the
Trump.
heart of it,
Hey, that's a good
yeah.
a good reference right there. But basically, I mean, he was actually a great businessman at one point in time, but then the '80s happened, and then he fucked everything
Yeah.
up.
Well, I mean, Coke was big in the 80s.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. It's really hard to not be a great businessman when your father gives you somewhere between like 10 and $50 million as your startup capital. It might have even been more than
Yeah.
that, but
And you don't have to pay
you-
taxes.
yeah, if you gave me $10 million right now, I'd be able to do something with that.
Yeah. Yeah, you know.
$10 million. What would I do?
Yeah. Wrap your head around it. Real estate, and then don't declare bankruptcy and leave people holding your fuck up.
I would.
That's what he
I don't
did.
know. Yeah.
Hey, look.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Yeah. That's basically. No, I mean, I like that he's treating things like a business, which I think is great, and I know a lot of people are not used to that.
Well, my only fault with that is like, so you've been the bottom rung employee at like a big company, like a Blockbuster, like a. So, how
That
does
was
it
my
feel
fault.
to be? Yeah. How does it feel to be the lowest ranked employee for a megacorp like that? Now, do you want that kind of applied to your living status as a citizen? Yeah, that's my only like issue with that argument.
But he really hasn't did anything personally to me that has affected me.
Yeah, well, luckily it's because we have a government of checks and balances.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not for want of trying.
Yeah, he has
I mean-
tried thoroughly.
I mean, if he wants to pay me $50 an hour to build a wall, I mean, I'll stack some damn bricks. I don't care.
Well, this whole thing, it went from Mexico's paying it to
Oh, that was a publicity stunt.
yeah. Now America's paying for it. It's $4 billion. It's $12 billion. It's 20.
What happened to
It's gonna
small
be
government?
2 years. Yeah, exactly.
Listen, we need to stop for a second and think about this. We need the wall because of the what was it? The Jaegers are coming. Oh no, we have the Jaegers. The Kaju
the
is coming.
Jaegers.
Wow.
The Kaju is coming. We need to build this wall because what's going to protect? All was it North and South? Was it North California, California, and South California?
Central
It's going to protect all
California,
three of those.
The Western California, other California.
There's going to be.
Yeah.
By the time that's done, there's going to be 7 Californias.
And they'll all be a federation unto themselves. A little
And
micro.
ultimately, you're just breaking up one big blue state to create like 3, possibly 4 blue states. So
I would love.
No,
I would love for one of those
with
states not to
the
legalize.
the 3-state plan, one of them remains red.
Okay.
Yeah, I know it's supposed to be the southern. I think the southern part of the state, because it's not going to be the northern part because the biggest metropolis would be Sacramento and San Francisco. So
And
It's gonna
that
be-
swings way harder than the rest of that half of the state,
yeah.
just by population alone.
They need to split up Texas.
No, I
We can
think
just-
Texas and California should genuinely secede.
They should.
They talk about it enough. I'm feeling like you're only half in, half out anyway. We'll
Yeah,
trade
it feels
with
like,
you. You know?
It feels like a person in an abusive relationship who's always like, "I'm gonna leave you if you keep doing this."
Well, that's how I feel about Canada. You might as well just give up. We'll take you over.
Jesus Christ! No, foreign invasion. I love the sound of it.
Yes.
Great
Oh no,
policy.
they can keep Quebec. I don't want to deal with that. No mercy. No mercy.
Jesus. Went straight for
All
the
it-
independence movement? Are you serious?
I don't know that I want to be a part of the what the fuck? What do they call it in Canada?
The Commonwealth?
Commonwealth of I don't want to be a part of the Commonwealth.
No, we'll take the Commonwealth from our imperial mother.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh,
I don't
that is
need
crazy.
Could you imagine we wouldn't be 50 states, we'd be 50 provinces? Oh, that's gross.
No, they're just providences. They're not states. They don't get representation because they're
Oh, I
not
know.
people.
Yeah, I know.
They're mooses in disguise.
Hey, those mooses in disguise were the second to legalize.
I'm not saying they were stupid mooses. Jesus.
I'm
Now
saying
you're putting
maybe-
words in my mouth, sir, and how dare you?
Well, do
I'm
you
sorry,
think
I
do you think other countries are going to follow? May not be us, but do you think other countries?
No,
are supposed to
we're
follow?
actually probably the closest behind.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, nationally, there's a push for it. I don't know that federally you're going to get it in the next 2 to 6 years, depending
yeah.
on things.
We are still the next closest federally, outside of a
Yeah.
couple like singular European countries within the Union,
Northern European countries, yeah.
like
Sweden. Yeah.
Sweden, Norway, Denmark, like the oft-cited Norwegian group, the Nordic group up there.
They're super hardcore anti-drug in a bunch of those states, or a bunch of those countries.
The Netherlands.
No, Holland's not. No, they've got Amsterdam.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
Oh, yes.
it's like Norway or Sweden or one of those.
I thought it was Denmark.
It might be. It's one of those all creepy, super white faces, blonde Hitler's dream.
Yeah, well, vitamin D deficient. Yeah, we get it.
Yeah.
Hitler's dream.
So,
Yeah.
like,
That's what he wanted.
one
That's
of
what he
those
wanted.
countries is, but the other two are like
other
mega
side of it,
liberal. Yeah, they're super liberal about it, and I
Yeah,
think it's like us and them are the next ones.
I wouldn't be surprised if you see a country like, because at this point, you don't want to be behind America in the world stage. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if you see countries like France, Germany.
I was going to say
start
France,
pushing. Yeah,
Yeah.
Italy, France, all those.
Yeah.
Greece.
I mean, Italy, there's a whole huge, criminal element just like here in America that really,
and that thrives on it. Yeah,
they could really deal a pretty fatal blow to the black market.
and that similarly is traded north. Correct? Like
Yeah.
that's imported from Africa.
Yeah, exactly. Right around the crescent there.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because you basically get it from the Middle East and Africa there. Then it kind of makes its way
If
into
we're
the
not
rest of
including the Middle East and Africa, which I've
It
seen
is,
both
yeah, I
ways
know.
now, it's weird.
Yeah.
I want a
so-
I want a blood diamond.
What?
The biggest scam about diamonds is there's not a shortage, there's an abundance. It's just the people that have them only release so many a year,
Yeah.
so it's like a controlled shortage. So
Yeah. And it's been a racket that's been running for 80
years?
plus years now.
yeah, it does. So yeah. No.
A
Although
little
I'm-
antitrust busting would be nice.
I'm happily unmarried for 12 years now, so
I'm sorry.
yeah. What?
I'm sorry.
I wish
Happily
I-
unmarried for 12 years.
Hold- I'm sorry. I'm reminiscing.
Well,
love my
fellas,
wife.
that and we all love ours too, Rob.
Yeah.
And that's been an hour.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Nope. Okay.
Hang yourself, really?
No.
See, I keep forgetting Haskins can see us because I'm looking at his stupid little upside down music logo this whole time, and it's driving me
I don't-
insane.
I don't see anything besides a little blue thing going like this over him.
Yeah, so I get the.
I am the
standard
darkness. I am
It's
the
like-
night.
It's the circle, and it's like a little punk rock snake or something like that.
It's an
That's
eighth
what
note.
So, yeah,
So-
I thought it was an eighth note, but it's like a snake eighth note.
You were like making an anus. I was like the whole time you were doing this. I was like, is he wrong? There it is.
Raw dogging it.
All right, that's awesome. Goodbye.
Yep. Have a good one, folks.